Good morning, everyone, and we welcome you to the June 17th, 2025 meeting of the Calvert County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Laird if he would come forward and give us an invocation, please.
Thank you, and I have to say, just a bit of humor. Katie, I had never met her before, and called me, and she said I was the 50th pastor she'd called. So you know how the adage goes, she called 50 good pastors, couldn't find it, so then she called me. But,
See, what she didn't tell you is they had been here before, so they knew. They're like,
but thank God for her persistence, and I'm really glad I could come. Lord God, we thank you for our nation, for our states, our counties, our law enforcement, so many things. And just as the psalmist has said, and David said in Psalm 103, bless the Lord, oh my God, and forget not all of his benefits. And we have so many. Just coming over the bridge this morning, I thought of the beautiful water, the bridge, the clean highways, and yes, law enforcement. And we thank you for these who've gathered. Thank you for the kindness that we experience daily, and the grace and the people of these two good counties. And I thank you also, Lord, for the fact that you promised that you satisfy us with so many good things. And we ask you to forgive us for the times that we've taken things for granted, for the freedoms we have in America. The psalmist also said that blessed is the nation who fears God. And we confess to you that many perhaps have forgotten you and have lost that fear of you, that due respect that we owe to you. And we pray there'd be a great resurgence of people who love God and country. And we thank you, Lord, for the church. We thank you for the Bible. And we thank you for the Lord Jesus Christ. We pray that you give wisdom today to those who serve us. Give them grace and humility. May their comportment be that which is pleasing to you. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So I was told I could say something about the church before we do that, and I'll sit down. We have two campuses. One are where the two big tents are. They're on as you go on Highway North, and then our campus is on the St. Mary's side. Thank you so much for inviting me.
thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Pastor Laird, I was going to ask you, because I wasn't familiar with where your church was, but everyone knows where the two tents are.
The two
down on
tents
the
are
floor.
right,
Yeah.
and I'm not the pastor there. Matter of fact, our lead pastor, his name is Larry Crabtree, and he works with law enforcement, one of the chaplains for many, many years here. So if you don't have a good church home, we invite you to come. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming and joining us today. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. So the next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
Have none?
I don't believe so. I move that we approve and adopt the agenda submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So I do have some public service announcements today, and unfortunately, we lost Mr. Joe Allman. Some of you that have been around for a while knew Joe. He was county administrator back in the 90s, worked in county government for a long time prior to that, retired, was still here in Calvert County, passed away last week. In fact, his funeral is going on right now. So just want to send our regrets and our condolences out to his family. Also, we lost Mr. Jack Brown. Mr. Brown, some of you watch our meetings, comes in with the Optimist Youth when they recognize our students from our schools every year. Mr. Brown was a school teacher at Calvert High and Northern, was coached football, right?
Everybody calls him Coach Brown.
Coach Brown. Died suddenly last week. I want to send out condolences to his family. Mr. Brown was a great community advocate, worked in a lot of different organizations, so we're going to miss those two individuals. Also, June is a very busy month. A lot of celebrations this month. It's Pride Month. We had a thing on our website last week for Pride Month. It's also Veterans Month. And last week we celebrated Juneteenth. So I want to recognize all those different events and that go on in June. Make sure that you, if you do a little research about those different events, if you don't know what they represent, take a little time because they're all important to citizens here in Calvert County. And we did produce a budget video recently that's going to be put out on our website for citizens can view, gives you a little insight into what our budget looks like, all the different departments, and it's a very brief video, but it's very well done. So if you take a minute, go on our website, you can pull up that video and watch. And this will be our last meeting in June, and most years, our fiscal year, as you know, ends in July. We have a lot of retirees. This year, we have a lot of senior retirees. I don't want to say, I guess I said senior.
Wasn't very nice,
he-
was it, Mark?
Staff that have been with us for a really long time. We're this year have decided to retire. A lot of 30-year veterans of county government are leaving this year, and so we want to take time to congratulate all those for their dedication to Calvert County for so many decades and the great service that they provide all our citizens, and especially to our county administrator, Mark Willis, who's going to retire at the end of the month. And since this is our last meeting, he said he's not going to cry, so
I will not.
I was kind of hoping we get a
He's
Marine
been doing that
cry
all
today.
morning, but it was tears of joy.
But Mark's been here for 24 years, was retired from Marines. He's done just about everything in county government you can do, I think. Worked his way up from the bottom to the top. So we really appreciate all your service and dedication to Calvert County, Mark. We want to wish you all the best. I know you're going to go into some business with your son, and that'll be very rewarding. And we hope that you're not a stranger. And you can always come in here and get the crowd ready for us to start our meeting if you want on Tuesdays.
There are folks that are trying to hire me to come in and speak every Tuesday on their behalf,
Oh, really?
but I said no.
We can ban that, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
Mr. President, is this about we're supposed to tell all those stories?
Yes,
You know?
all the dirt, all the dirt. But again, we want to wish you the best and congratulations on your
Thank you very
retirement.
much. My pleasure.
And as always, we have an animal of the week. Must be a little animal.
Oh, cool.
I feel like I haven't brought a bunny yet.
No.
Good morning, Brandy here. This is Mocha. Mocha has been with us for about a week, roughly 6 months old. There was a total of 7 that came in so far, and we have a couple more coming in today, all from the same place. So if anybody wants a bunny, we have tons to look at. They're a little
Some, I never
skittish.
had one of those. You could like let them walk around in the house and everything like that?
Yeah, you can litter box train bunnies.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
we've had
cool.
many that you can do that with.
Your
yeah.
beagle would love that, Mike.
Oh my God! Yeah, yeah. Although he's like Scooby Doo, he runs from everything. That bunny would probably chase him around the house.
So I
At least
don't
they
know.
both get exercise.
They do call them rabbit dogs.
They do.
I don't think they've had a lot of socializations, the ones we have right now, but they're still pretty young, so they have time, and we're working on it with them. Like right now, he's shaking very bad, but we're trying to force the love and make them know that it's okay
Yeah.
to be loved on. With rabbits, they are pretty independent. They do love to run around. They need constant hay for chewing. Their teeth constantly grow, so they need like hard things to chew on.
I mean, if somebody brought them home, do you kind of have to childproof the house a little bit? Like, you know, like would they
They'll
chew
probably
on
chew
wires,
wires and stuff.
That's
yeah,
what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people they'll do like the cages, but they do need place to roam. So if you have like a little area you can gate off or stuff like that. We've had some people come in and say they make a whole entire room for their rabbits, and they
Huh.
have all these little things to go for. They love like fresh clovers, grasses, stuff like that, fruits and veggies. But like I said, we have tons of them. So if you're interested in a bunny, shoot on down to the shelter. Check out our website. They're all available right now. He still needs to be neutered, but he is available for meet and greets and adoption. And I think he will be ready to go. I don't remember when his date is. Maybe
Marty, are
next
you a
week.
rabbit guy,
So-
Marty? We know you're a dog guy. We know that. We know you got that dog thing down.
The bunny's not cozying up to Marty like the
I
dog.
know. I'm noticing
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel a vibe. So.
I brought him for Mark. He's part of the
Oh, there you go, Mark. He'll have plenty of
Going away
time.
gift, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you can adopt, please come on down and volunteer. We take donations. You can, if you don't want to bring an animal into your home, but you want to help an animal find a home, we also allow people to sponsor the animals' adoption fees. And, you know, volunteering doesn't necessarily, we always need transports for animals, things like that. Fosters, we have a lot of kittens right now. We're looking for kitten fosters. But yeah, so come on down.
And lucky for this bunny, there'll be no adoption fees for the next 3 weeks.
3 weeks. All right, there you go, bud.
So you can go get him for free, Mark.
I'm very seriously contemplating that Mark would probably stop by today.
You know, Mark, I think Diana likes bunnies, right?
Diana would
Yeah,
love
Diana
that
would-
bunny.
Diana likes
Diana's his granddaughter.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
she would.
Be the best pop-up ever.
Sounds like a re-gift, Mark.
All right.
Well, we
we'll
thank you
see
for bringing
guys
him
in
in.
3
Thank you.
weeks. Yes.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda today is recognition of the Calvert County Sheriff's Office Correctional Academy graduates. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Captain Puff with the Detention Center. It's my honor to present our newest deputies that just graduated the academy. Bring them up. Come on. I'm going to start with Sebastian Morlock. He's a Patuxent graduate.
All right.
Little info on each one of them. He holds the state record in Maryland for bench press and strict curl for the 16 to 17-year age group. Jacob Bowie.
Come on up.
Come on up, young
Diana,
man.
come on.
Oh, young man, you gotta come up front.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's a Patuxent graduate. He achieved Eagle Scout, and he's a volunteer firefighter with Prince Frederick Rescue Squad.
Right up front.
Caitlin McGuire.
Turn around and face the crowd. Don't worry about us.
Back all the way up to the
Back
She's
all
a
the way up
Calvert
to
High
us.
School graduate. She's a distinguished
go.
graduate
Good
from the
job.
Criminal Justice Academy, and she was Explorer of the Year in 2023. Adam Gott. He's a Calvert graduate, and he earned the Steve Allen Award at the Criminal Justice Academy. He's 21 years old. Travis Harrod Jr. He's a Calvert High School graduate, and he's part of the student council and student leadership at Calvert High. And he is the son of Travis Harrod at the Detention Center, second generation correctional officer. Congratulations. Brian Platts. He's a Patuxent graduate. He's a distinguished graduate from the Criminal Justice Academy. He's a volunteer EMT with Solomon's Volunteer Firehouse.
Come on up, sir.
Commissioner, just real quick, if you haven't noticed, we kind of threw Captain Puff right into the fire. He's the newest deputy administrator over at the detention center, so he was promoted to captain, and he assumed that position a couple of weeks ago, so.
Congratulations.
Just, congratulations to him as well.
Congratulations, Chuck.
That's our photo. We're gonna take the photo now.
Anybody can see, man.
Yep, got it.
Perfect. Can we get everyone here? No, cut.
Definitely have your game face on, I give you that.
What's up, man? How you doing, bud?
All right, congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Maybe proud of you.
Okay, congratulations. So they have a photo. She's gonna get you a photo. Have a good day. Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
So the next item on the agenda is to convene is the Calvert County Board of Health. Is there a motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I move to recess the meeting to Board of County Commissioners and convene a meeting as the Calvert County Board of Health.
Second.
A motion and a second to convene as the Calvert County Board of Health. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Good morning, Dr. Moore.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Good
morning.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
So we're going to continue on today.
I'm here just for technical support. Jennifer Moreland, Director of Community Resources. And so, once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning and make this presentation to the board. I have 3 topics today. The first one concerns cannabis, and I will be discussing the health effects of it, current trends and use in Calvert County and the state, and then the safety implications. Are you hearing me okay? Great, thanks. Next, I'll discuss youth depression. I went into this at the last presentation, but I'm hoping to give you a little bit more information about that and discuss the evidence-based interventions for preventing youth depression. And then I will close with important summer safety reminders. So the information I'll be presenting is really a follow-up from the previous presentation, and we gathered the information in response to questions by the commissioners. Thank you very much. So now we'll start with this one. I will begin with an overview of Maryland's cannabis laws. In July 2023, licensed dispensaries have been authorized to sell regulated cannabis products to adults aged 21 and over, and as well as to certified medical patients. So the Maryland Cannabis Administration, or the MCA, regulates various aspects of the cannabis industry, including cultivation, manufacturing, testing, packaging, labeling, sales, as well as distribution of medical and adult use cannabis within the state. And a regulated product that meets the MCA standards bears a symbol that's shown there on the upper right or on the right side of the slide. And there are products that are unregulated that are being sold at various places, either online, at convenience stores, gas stations, some vape or smoke shops. Now, only adults aged 21 or older can legally purchase, possess, and use cannabis. And there are limits in the amount that they can possess, depending on the type of product that they have. Driving under the influence of cannabis is illegal, and smoking cannabis in public indoor spaces such as restaurants, bars, and schools is illegal. Cannabis also cannot be smoked in public outdoor spaces, including streets, sidewalks, and parks. And so it'll be important for us to emphasize that youth under 21, it's not allowed for them to buy it, to possess it, to use it, and if they are caught, they can be charged, they can be fined, depending on the amount that they have.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
I know in liquor stores, they regulate that as well. Is the same enforcement of these dispensaries there as is in liquor stores? Do the police go in? Do they make sure they're not selling to anybody under 21?
So as far as we know in the research and the reading that we've done and in consultation with my staff, it's the dispensaries that are under tight regulations
Okay.
to do that. In the liquor store, depending You can't really speak for them because they, unless they're also a licensed dispensary, they really cannot produce or cannot sell the regulated products. Now, they can probably sell the unregulated products because there are no real
You're
laws.
talking about serving minors, though. That's what you're
Serving
talking-
minors.
She's talking about
Serving
serving minors.
minors.
So,
Serving
so,
minors.
so are they running stings? Like, are they bringing somebody underage or somebody without a medical card into the cannabis place
There you
to
go.
see if they will sell to them or not, like the liquor stores? What you trying to say?
Oh, so at the dispensaries, they're under strict laws to make sure that they identify and they look at the
Well,
ages.
so
of
are
the-
liquor stores, but I mean, is there an outside agency coming in to test that?
I think, well, let me back up. So at the liquor stores, they, responsible owners and licensees would look for that, but we can't necessarily guarantee that because the laws really don't affect them as directly as the dispensaries.
So the state of Maryland, what they do is, so they'll do tobacco checks and alcohol checks.
And,
Okay, so you're in two separate ones. So I think, and tell me if I'm misspeaking, what Commissioner Grasso is asking is, there is a tobacco check, an alcohol check. Is there a cannabis check in the same way where they'll dress somebody up to look older? Or like you'll come into a bar, when it's at the busy time or what have you, and to see if even under stressful times, are they carding? And so is there a mechanism, an independent mechanism that goes out into the dispensary? Like if I just walk in off the street, now granted, I look old as dirt, so that's easy, you know, I'm over 21, but somebody who's very young looking, are they carding or verifying who they are is what the question is.
So they're supposed to card and verify.
Right, but.
I think Dr. Moore is not understanding your
Like a
question.
mystery, like a
And she
mystery
doesn't know the
shopper.
answer.
Well, that's the enforcement side of things too, in
Yeah.
all fairness.
Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, so
that'd be
are
a
they
better question.
mandated to do that? Like in the liquor world, or like even tobacco?
So actually, I will have to look for that information. So, are they, it's like the mystery shopper. The mystery shopper, right?
It's
The grocery store world. Mystery shopper mechanism for making sure that they are complying.
That's a
No.
sheriff question. Yes.
Right,
Okay.
so that is a sheriff
you.
question, but I can look for that and I will respond to that via email, so. Great.
Because
Appreciate your patience.
there's so much concern out there with minors.
Yes,
And so I was just wondering if the laws were as strict for this as they are, like Commissioner Hart said, for alcohol and tobacco.
okay. Now, I do know that in July 1, 2025, the labeling and the packaging of the unregulated products, there are laws now that will regulate those and that they'll have to meet certain labeling standards as well as packaging standards so that they do not look attractive to the minors. Now, whether that law allows for a mystery shopper to go into their shops and that's something that I can look into as well. and
That's not
consult.
something the health department would do.
No, but we do, for tobaccos, we do have a role in.
Yeah, you get grants, right? They get grants and they'll get targeted grants to where like the hot spots are and things of that nature. So back to, obviously you haven't had any grants for that or any type of involvement because that would, you would know that. It would pop off the page, so.
Right, that's correct.
I think the struggle that law enforcement was a lot is when you mention like driving impaired. To my knowledge, I don't believe there is a roadside sobriety check.
There
So, and it stays in your system for what, 30 days? So even a test to see if you came up positive wouldn't narrow down and, I mean, to my knowledge, I don't know what tools they have to work with that.
So currently, there are none to test level. There's an entity or a test called the DRE or a recognized driver evaluation.
Experts.
Yeah, but they require experts, and I did consult with our sheriff's office. So since legalization, they have conducted 4 of those, and none of them indicated use of cannabis. And they did admit that it's quite challenging because you can't really tell whether that member or that person being evaluated used cannabis alone or cannabis plus other substances. So it's a
Well,
challenging.
And are the dogs still allowed to be used for? I didn't think so. I didn't want to misspeak. So now, law enforcement can't even use the dogs to smell if there's cannabis in the car or what have you. So
Correct. And they wouldn't make an arrest or a charge or a citation based on odor of cannabis in the car. They would have to be able to show impairment, and that's where the challenge is. Because it's a specialized type of evaluation that takes several hours to execute. And so by the time they get to the station where a test could occur, the levels would have waned and you wouldn't see the effects anymore.
Well, my understanding too, the levels of THC in marijuana now are a lot greater than what they ever used to be.
That's true.
So that's a challenging point too. There's a lot of folks out there going, well, back in my day, we drove all the time. It's not the same stuff. So the levels are so much greater and stronger. It puts law enforcement in a bind. It does. And I mean, you guys know, I worked for the beer distributors for a long time, and we had posters all over the place. Nobody wanted anybody impaired. That was protecting our business. We were in the alcohol distribution business, but we didn't want impaired people on the road. And a lot of people didn't believe that, but it's true. The alcohol industry has been very, very proactive about trying not to, and they would do designated driver programs and things like that. So this is so new to Maryland. It's kind of like a lot of things in Maryland. You put it out there, then you figure it out later.
Maybe from the enforcement side of things and the DRE side of things, maybe we could have Sheriff Cox have his DREs put something together and come in and educate us on the laws and that type of thing. But
That'd be great.
I think this is more of an awareness as far as what they're seeing from the health department side of things. So I think we should do that, though. I really
be
do. I
great,
think it
yeah.
would be neat to have them in here.
Oh, I do too. I think the public would appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And now I'll move on, just to remind our folks here about the short-term and long-term effects of cannabis. So the short-term effects are great. So it includes difficulty focusing, slower reaction time, decreased ability to concentrate and make decisions. Then there's a reduced awareness of time and distance. And so all of these factors contribute to the risks associated with driving under the influence. And that is really the case if a person drives within 6 hours of consuming the product. And sometimes taking either moderate or high doses can cause individuals to have other symptoms, including nausea, vomiting, panic attacks, anxiety, and sometimes those will require visits to an emergency room or emergency department. Now, for adolescents, it is important for them to understand that consuming cannabis can really harm the development of their brain. And this really has been shown mostly in animal studies, but also there are studies that show this behavior among the teens and adolescents. So regular exposure can impair brain development and making them difficult to carry out all of their responsibilities at school. And so their ability to achieve further becomes lessened. And that's a big disadvantage. There are also studies that have shown that cannabis users have higher rates of depression compared to those who are not using the product. And I think the biggest risk is really addiction. So adults who use cannabis have a 1 in 10 risk of becoming addicted to the product, while an adolescent becomes addicted, like 1 in 6 of adolescents. So they're more likely to also get addicted to it because of the effects of basically the cannabis product on the brain receptors. Next slide. So now I'm going to go over the use and basically the distribution and the use among the youth. So the data here comes from the Maryland Youth Risk Behavior Survey and Tobacco Survey. This is an on-site survey that's conducted every 2 years in all the Maryland public schools and high schools and middle schools, and they focus on obtaining information on youth risk behaviors linked to death and disability, such as alcohol use, tobacco use, drug use, and other risk-taking behaviors. So not shown in here, though, the data has shown that cannabis use among high school students have decreased over time since 2013. Now, and so the chart here shows that in the middle school and high school students in the past 3 years, that trend appears to also decline, except in 2023 when there was a bit of an increase both in the middle school use and the high school student use. The middle school use is not as apparent there because it's a small bump, but it's slightly higher for high school students. And it's important to note, though, that the data here does not really reflect what's happening after legalization. And so we have yet to collect that information and analyze that. So more to follow in the future years. So this slide, and I apologize that they're very small in here, but it's really our attempt to demonstrate the rates and the rate of use among all the jurisdictions in Maryland. And so it's kind of variable. And the data here shows that the overall, Calvert County's usage rates tend to be generally lower than the state's, with one exception, and that's the rate of high school student use in 2023. So in 2023, 15.6% of Calvert County high school students reported cannabis use, and that's higher than the state average of 14.4. So this slide is informative. The data was derived from the Youth Pandemic Behavior Survey of 2023, which was sponsored by the Maryland Department of Health, and it was administered to gather insights into the high school students' experience with tobacco, substance use, and their mental health. And a key finding here is that the teens primarily use cannabis to fit in and to socialize with their friends. That's the top reason among white, Black, and Asian students. Depression and anxiety was also a second common reason, particularly among the Hispanic students. So the pie chart on the right shows the sources where our teens obtain these. And most teens reported obtaining cannabis from their friends and teens. That's the 42% that you see there. And nearly 1/5 of teens report obtaining cannabis from unregulated sources such as the online platforms and then the convenience stores. And this is concerning because the unregulated products really do not really necessarily follow what's on their label. So the label might say it contains a certain level, but the level could be much higher or much lower than what's on the label. And additionally, there's really no control as to what harmful contaminants may be included in there. And so it is rendered unsafe. 6% of respondents stated that they obtained cannabis from a licensed dispensary. So, but it's not clear whether they actually went in there and obtained it, or did an adult who was of legal age obtain it for them. So these findings all highlight the importance of having programs to reduce sales to the minors and policies and laws to do that and support those. Now, the next slide shows the
So
adult.
can I stop you for 1 second there? So
Yes.
do you know the awareness that we're doing in the schools? Is it equal between the middle school and high school, or do we do more with the middle school youth or more with the high school? Just,
So, yeah, currently, the health department is involved in, collaborates with the public school system, both in the middle school and the high school students. Most of what's done is sort of like at the invitation of specific teachers or teacher groups that are advocating for, improved awareness among the students. So they are fairly equal with the middle school and high school students. Cannabis use among adults. This is also in reference to in response to the Commissioner's question last time as to what is adult use, how does it compare to the other jurisdictions, and then what are the public health and public safety implications. So data here is from what's called the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, or the BRFSS. That is actually a telephone survey that is used to gather state-level data from U.S. residents throughout the United States, the 50 states, District of Columbia, as well as the territories. And a total of 400,000 telephone interviews are conducted per survey cycle, which means at the Maryland state level, about 8,000 interviews are done. So for our county, roughly between 300 to 400 persons are interviewed, and those are randomly selected based on the system of this particular system. And a disadvantage of that is that sometimes the data are too small, or the numbers are too small to be really represented, and for those to be represented in a graph, and for them to be meaningful and accurate. And that's why you don't see some of the data for the other jurisdictions in there. For the jurisdictions that are missing data on that graph, it's really because their numbers were very small, and so the state epidemiology folks suppress those because they could be misleading. And then what we see here, though, is that for Calvert County's 2022 numbers, it's also not displayed there because those were too small to be included in the analysis. So what we have here is that from the available reliable data, we can conclude that the percentage of current use in Calvert County in 2023 was higher than that of the state's average. That's really all that we can conclude out of this graph.
Now, do you get that data from sales numbers?
Actually, these are not from sales numbers, these are voluntary, so they're self-reported.
See, that's always subjective though, because
That's
it
correct.
depends what jurisdiction you go into. You go into an area that's not the culture. Even if it's being done, you're not gonna talk about it because that's not condoned. You go to an area that's more relaxed and you feel more free to talk about it. So I would be curious because you do have sales data now, because you have dispensaries. So I'd be curious to see that type of data. That's regulated and reported to get a real good feel. Because I can tell you, you're looking at 24.5% in Calvary. You tell me just right across that bridge, nothing's happening. So no.
Right, and because.
Yeah, no, now there's a lot of St. Mary's coming across that bridge, but they got a Hollywood dispensary too, and that thing's jumping just like Solomon. So
That's
sales data is what I would be curious about. I mean,
Okay.
just word of mouth. I can tell you anything. You smoke weed? No. Oh, that put a no down.
Right,
So,
yes,
I
I
mean,
understand.
and I'm not putting down the chart. I'm just saying, if that's just word of mouth thing, everybody's gonna lie about it. Unless you're just in a situation where really nothing's gonna reflect on you and just not gonna go, yeah, I was high yesterday or I wasn't or what have you.
Right, yeah, and those are the limitations of our data source,
So where
but,
we look really bad, I bet you if you looked at sales numbers, I bet it would look a whole lot more consistent across the state.
correct. And I wanted to just clarify also that because like St. Mary's and Carroll's aren't there, it doesn't mean their usage was zero. It's because the cases were so low and
Well,
the
that's just what they're telling you. That's
Right,
going
the
back to,
numbers.
so if you look across the country, marijuana sales, are booming. Now, some jurisdictions that have had it for a while are seeing the numbers dip some, right? Like in any new product, it's gonna shoot up, then it levels off, kind of finds its home, and then it goes into a new state, and then it booms again, because instead of buying from the dealer, they're buying out dispensary. But being that Maryland's fairly new, I bet and I don't know this, but I would bet if you was to look across the sales data of those places, you'd see some pretty consistent numbers.
Yes, and that's something that we will definitely, and I'll have our staff look into that as well. And this is also kind of, like you said, it's early data collection, so these may change over the next 5 years as the data collection also improves, at the BRFSS level. They may even change questions depending on what is kind of gleaned and gathered from the information today.
If I had to guess, the survey in Calvert was conducted a whole lot more thoroughly than it was elsewhere. We always compare Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's to Tri-County areas. It's interesting you see Hartford, Cecil, and Carroll. Is that done because of the same demographics, or why are those three up there?
That was my request. I wanted, because
I like that. I like that. You don't see that very often, and that's the way we should be compared to other counties of similar.
Similar demographics.
Okay, thank you. Good job, Jen.
unfortunately we don't have the data.
So, next slide. So this is also an informative and busy slide, and I'll try to summarize this for you. So the observations here are as follows. So the graph in the table on the left indicates the highest rate of cannabis use observed in individuals ages 18 to 20, followed by the 20 to 21-year-old age group. Let me back that up. It's really broken down by age and then tracked from 2018 to 2024. And as you can see, the youngest adult groups have the highest use rate, and then as the groups age, then the use rate decreases. Now, the bar graph on the right illustrates the demographics of the cannabis users. So its use is higher among males compared to females, so that's opposite of what was observed in the high schools, actually, where more females were using than males. Also, individuals with a high school education or less tend to have a higher rate of use when compared to the college-educated population. And then the rates by race and ethnicity, so the rates of use among white and black individuals are similar, and then the rate of use among Hispanic individuals is half of the rates for the two groups. And so the summary here is that among the 18 to 25-year-old age groups, the most important reasons for cannabis use are also shown in there. It's for recreational use, but some are taking it to help reduce depression, anxiety, or to help them sleep. Next slide. So now we're going to switch over to the public safety implications of cannabis use. The data here is really from the state because there are not there insufficient information to take it from the county level. Data presented here comes from the online survey of young adults in Maryland aged 18 to 25 years old. And it's designed to understand better the driving behaviors that are linked to cannabis use. So unfortunately, we don't have data yet post legalization, right? And so most of this is before cannabis was legalized. So the bar graph shows the percentage of individuals ages 18 to 25 years old who reported driving within 3 hours of consuming or using cannabis. Again, it's self-reported, and the information here indicates that the rates are overall increasing, and the higher rates are observed among individuals who are 18 to 20 years old. And it's also higher among males when compared to females. Next. So another measure we were looking at for public safety were the number of fatal traffic crashes in Maryland. This slide helps summarize that. So the slide represents both alcohol and drug-impaired fatal crashes in Maryland from 2018 to 2022. And each year, traffic fatalities attributed to alcohol still significantly outnumbered those attributed to drug impairment. And in 2022, as you can see there, the rates were 10 times higher. The rates of fatalities were 10 times higher for alcohol when compared to the drug impairment numbers. And the bar graph on the right shows in detail the substances that were associated with the drug-impaired fatal crashes. And the blue bars are the ones that are attributed to THC. So the graph illustrates also on the right, the graph on the right also illustrates that some of those drivers have multiple substances on board because they don't quite add up to the numbers on the left. And there's really not a way to tease that out based on the data that was presented and that's available. So in Calvert County, the Sheriff's Office reports that they have not observed a significant increase in arrests linked to cannabis-impaired driving since legalization. But they did identify the challenges that they saw, and it's that they have observed that the general public seems to perceive cannabis use as no longer being a public safety concern. Another challenge that they discussed is that the lack of the roadside test, basically, to tell, how do they tell if somebody is impaired with a single level test? There is none of that right now. Next slide. So another measure of the impact of public safety is really looking at the number of calls to the Maryland Poison Control. So not shown here, the numbers or the total numbers for cannabis-related calls to the Maryland Poison Control really have been decreasing over time. But you only see the snapshot for the last 3 years here. I'm sorry, 2018. From 2018 to 2024. And these are for the age group that we're looking at here. It's the 0 to 19 years old. And this is where some of the rise are occurring. So calls concerning youth exposures to cannabis have appeared to rise. And the bar graph here shows that the number of cannabis-related calls for individuals under 20 seem to steadily increase from 2018 to 2024. And the group that has the highest number of calls is the 13 to 19 age group, followed by the 0 to 5-year-old age group. And then the next slide shows hospitalizations and ER visits. So cannabis intoxication can lead to severe reactions requiring emergency care or hospitalization. And so this graph illustrates the emergency department visits and hospitalizations for the state of Maryland, actually. So the graph on the right I'm sorry, the graph on the left shows the emergency department visits, and most age groups show a downward trend, actually, since 2020, 2018, except for the 0 to 12 group, where you could see a slight rise of the blue line. It sort of has the slope is upward. The graph on the right displays cannabis-related hospitalizations by age group also from 2018 to 2024. And those hospitalization rates also have appeared to trend it down even after legalization, which are the two vertical red lines there. Those are the times when legalization occurred.
So Dr. Mora,
Yes, sir.
that's an interesting statistic, because even on the previous slide, the 0 to 5-year-olds had the highest increase.
Yes. And so what this one tells us is that children are getting into those substances accidentally. These are accidental. So if they are in homes where parents or adults are using the products, are probably not necessarily stored properly, so the kids have access to them, and then resulting in the numbers that you see.
They're eating their own cookies and probably
Right, the wrong
gummies and
edibles.
everything else. It's mostly
Yes.
edibles if I had to guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
Especially.
before, when it was illegal, they were hiding it, and now they're just leaving it out in the open, so it's more accessible to these
Is that
kids.
hospital data?
This is actually hospital data from the Maryland Cannabis Use Biannual Report. You can find this, okay. So now the proposed action, I just wanted to describe to you what the health department is doing now and what we propose to do. So the health department currently partners with the schools to promote education through the health fairs, lunch and learn sessions, and there's an initiative to expand that even more. And to also make known the resources that are already available at the Maryland Department of Health Be Cannabis Smart website. It's really to engage parents, because parents and kids need to be engaged equally on this. And we also partner with multiple community organizations to help deliver the message beyond the schools. Also, we have an initiative to expand that information outreach to the 18 to 20-year-old age range and above. So really the college age students, because we're seeing that they have the highest use rate in the state, and it's probably the same for the county. And next slide. So now I'm going to switch over to mental health. So at the last presentation, we did mention that there were some elevated rates of feelings of sadness and hopelessness among our high school students and the middle school students, and that there were attempts of suicide or consideration of suicide. And studies have shown that post-COVID depression levels in children and adults, they really were significantly higher than those before the pandemic. There are no data that are specific to Calvert County, but this is from papers and studies that are done generally throughout the U.S. And it is thought that those feelings were linked to social isolation, the lack of exercise, fear of contracting the virus, stress associated with just being inside the home with their parents, and then the stress that they might be, sensing from their parents as well. And then if they are in a low socioeconomic status, then they have even added stress. So what we're doing here is we currently have school-based services that are available. The health department offers school-based services to individuals who are currently suffering from depression, students who are doing that. And those services are available at the individual level as well as in the group session level. But currently, for fiscal 2026, the health department submitted a grant proposal for another new school-based prevention program that's organized in 3 tiers, as you see there. And the whole purpose of this is to really expand the services of prevention, and so that people, students who are still not at risk have access to some of the prevention program, and then students who are at increased risk can access the tier 2 and lower. And then the people or the kids or the children or the students who have an active illness, they can access tier 3, and then the actual services that are being delivered now.
But how do they know that? I saw your graph with the middle school and high schools, and you've heard me say before, we just kill these kids with information. I mean, they're just inundated with every type of video source, everything. We put so much on their plate, and look, I'm a hard love guy, don't get me wrong, you know, but if it's like if they don't win the Super Bowl, they fell short, you know, and so how do they assess what these risks are? I mean, is there somebody like, I mean, is it like mandatory starting in the middle school? I mean, for a middle school child to think about suicide should just be so unthinkable. What possibly could be on their plate so heavy? I mean, barring like some domestic thing at the house or what have you, is there somebody, I mean, do they start A to Z and go, hey, you know, okay, you're now in 6th grade, let's talk, how are you doing? I mean, is there that type of interaction going on with each child?
Actually, we really will rely on the teachers. So we've had meetings
But that's
with-
too much pressure on a teacher. If I go to school to be a math teacher, I don't know anything about mental health.
Correct, except they have to deal with it, you know.
See, and that's what drives me nuts with Maryland. And Maryland's done this like wash its hands of mental health. It's one of the biggest problems we have out there. We put it on law enforcement. We go, hey, you had a month training to identify somebody who's autistic or not, and then to put on a teacher. I mean, there's so much going on on the plate of a child these days. When I went to school, go outside and play, basically.
Correct.
Those days are just so gone. I mean,
So thank you for bringing these up. But today there are social workers out there. There's a network of social workers in each
I
of
get that, but I
the
mean,
schools. who are-
seeing so much more of it. I mean, like, I mean, down with Solomon's Bridge now has become this magnet for this, and you know, I don't want to say Maryland's not taking it serious, but I just every year we do these presentations and stuff, and I don't see this real focal point on each child. Somebody needs to kick the tires on this kid and say, hey, you know, how you doing? What's going on? There, I mean, is there I mean, to put that on a teacher, if that's what we're going to do is put it on a teacher, we're not going to solve that problem.
It's actually a collaboration, sir. So the information about to present to you is based on a grant proposal that was submitted by our behavioral health department. Understanding, you know, realizing that we're talking about depression, high rates of depression, and what can we do, you know, upstream to help prevent the kids from doing this. It's really informing them and arming them with the information. So it's
And
a three
I don't think that the pressure's on the teacher to
Well, she was
to
saying
help
it's a
cure
teacher's
them.
to do it.
Well, but the teachers are with these kids every day, and they notice changes that sometimes parents miss or sometimes parents ignore. I think what she's trying to say is that when the teachers notice these changes, it's up to them to reach out to try to help the children and get them the resources that they need. I don't think she's saying the teachers are there to cure their or help them, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's more about identification, I believe, and getting
referrals.
resources
Yeah.
Yes.
than it is
Because when I
about.
was a kid, you know, your teacher wasn't necessarily your friend, but it was an authority figure. And if they said something, you listened because your parents were going to make sure of that. So if they saw you there, and I just don't know, that's why I'm asking, what is the interaction? Because,
Right.
you know,
In some cases, you'll find that children are more open with their teachers than they are with their parents.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
so the teachers are the best resource to identify it, but, you know, they certainly aren't equipped to make, you know, medical decisions and provide care. It's just identifying an issue and getting the right resources in place.
And as long
And-
as
and
that
making the
information's getting back to
recommendation.
the parents.
Right,
Yeah.
and getting it back to the
And
parents.
as you said, there are more resources in the school now than there's ever been. So.
Yes, yes. And then, but these are examples. Let me see, like, if you can go on to the next slide. So the Signs of Suicide and the Adolescent Depression Awareness Program, those really are more like educational sessions that we would like to incorporate at least as part of the health curriculum. So we're working with the schools on that. That's kind of like still on hold, but the best way to do this is to incorporate it into the health curriculum. It's either a one session or a two session where they teach, these sessions teach the kids, you know, how to recognize it in them, how to recognize it among their friends, and that they should be reaching out. They could reach out for help to the adults that are around them, either a teacher, their parent, etc. Now, next slide. So those are, for the next slide, so these are for students who are at increased risk, as noticed in either by their teachers or by their parents. So there's something called the student checkup, which is actually a therapy and counseling session that could be made available to those kids right in the school environment. And they are, and I did talk to our school officials and some teachers, and that they do try their best to protect privacy. They have a very good system of making sure that students' privacies are protected when they ever have to engage or to try to ask for these services. But these are really made available to everybody, and so it's something that they could engage in kind of voluntarily. But then they're protected also, like other people don't need to know about that they're engaged in these activities.
Well, they need to be comfortable to be able to go to somebody to talk their feelings or what have you, you know.
Correct.
And where they're not going to be looked at, you know, somebody sympathetic.
And the school system struggle to find people to fill those positions to provide that help in a lot of cases.
That's true. So you have a lot of social workers, and we've encouraged them to reach out to the health department because we do have a school-based services, and they're there for us a resource as well. Thank you very much. And so I'll end it with two important summer safety messages, just because people are getting out, it's summer, and they may be exposed to ticks and they may be exposed to animal bites. So Lyme disease, okay, is the most common tick-borne illness in Maryland, and it's an infectious disease that's passed on by ticks that are infected by the bacteria that causes Lyme disease. And to prevent that, I would encourage our residents to be vigilant, just use EPA-approved DEET or insect repellents when they're outdoors, right? And they should wear long sleeve shirts and tuck their socks in if possible. And then sometimes those are not possible. You just make sure that they're checking ticks daily and that they take a shower right away, after being outdoors, because that's probably the best way to make sure that those ticks don't attach. And if they find a tick that's attached and they're not sure whether it's been there 36 hours or longer, then they should be calling their physicians for advice. And if they ever see a rash that looks like that, that's called a target rash. That means they may have been bitten by the tick that has Lyme disease. They should see their doctors, because if it's not treated, then they're at risk for long-term complications of Lyme, which include infections of the joint, involvement of the heart, and it could even be involvement of the brain. So the best thing is if they see that, got to see the doctor, get a treatment. It's usually an antibiotic. And then the next slide here, so rabies, it's very rare. The last case of rabies in Maryland was in 1976. But we do worry about it because it's present in the wildlife. So how is rabies contracted? By the animal bite or by the scratch or exposure to the saliva of an infected animal. And it's usually wildlife. However, it's good to know that sometimes our domesticated cats, dogs, and some livestock may be at risk for getting it. So people really should vaccinate their animals and make sure that those vaccines are up to date. And ensure that, they keep their animals within their yards, don't let them roam around. And if they're ever bitten or scratched by an animal, those need to be reported to the animal control. And then the animal control reach out to us so that we can get the appropriate management for that particular person and their animal. And they should also, if they're bitten by an animal and there's an owner, get the contact information of the owner in case because we usually will have to quarantine the animal for a certain period of time. And it just kind of makes it easier for everybody. So that's really all that I have. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate all the information and the work you're doing at the health department.
And the presentation continues July 22nd. She has one final for this series. We'll call it a series. And then I'll coordinate with Katie Britton on getting law enforcement to talk about their cannabis enforcement measures.
That'd be great.
And if there's sales data, we can incorporate that in the presentation as well.
I guess that is a good resource. Because the state
Yeah,
definitely
right.
has the sales data, and that would give you a pretty good indicator, better than, we've
Word
all
of mouth.
questioned this data that shows Coward County uses twice the rate of the rest of the state. That just doesn't make any sense to us, so
Yeah.
it would be interesting to see what's behind that. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's pretty tight.
So I move to adjourn the meeting of the Calvert County Board of Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is consent. We have several items under consent today. Item 1, Department of Economic Development Grant Application for Maryland Business Ready Site Characterization. Item 2, Department of Planning and Zoning, Southern Maryland National Heritage Area C Grant Application, Heritage Waypoints. Item 3, Department of Public Safety, MedStar Health Memorandum of Agreement. Item 4, Department of Public Works Budget Amendment for Calvert Advanced Life Support. Item 5, Office of the County Administrator, approval of the Calvert Marine Museum Board of Governors fiscal year 2026 budget. Item 6, Office of the County Administrator, Magistrate's Office fiscal year 2026 child support program agreements and leases. Are there any objections to those items listed under consent today?
Have none. Mr. President, I move that we adopt and approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is new business. Item 1, Department of Community Resources fiscal year 2026 Strategic Demolition Fund Grant for Transitional Housing Site Plan. Director Moreland.
Back again.
Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Moreland, Director of Community Resources. I'm just going to read the memo here. This is fiscal year, subject is fiscal year 2026 Strategic Demolition Fund Grant for Transitional Housing Site Plan. Background, in October 2021, during the annual Domestic Violence Awareness presentation of the Board of County Commissioners, the Department of Community Resources presented a need for transitional housing for victims of domestic violence. Recently, Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence reached out to the Community Resources Director with an interest in developing a model for transitional housing for victims of domestic violence. Discussion. The domestic violence shelter, Safe Harbor, is owned by the county. The shelter regularly exceeds capacity, and one of the biggest barriers for victims is identifying affordable housing. The shelter site submitted to the Department of Planning and Zoning in 1996 included expansion of a resource center and 6 transitional housing units. With new stormwater management regulations, the Department of Community Resources is seeking support for a revised site plan funded through a Strategic Demolition Fund grant. Fiscal impact. The grant, if awarded, will provide up to $300,000 in funding. A request for a capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2027 will be submitted. Additional funds will be secured through state grants. Conclusion recommendation. Staff requests the Board of County Commissioners to review and, if appropriate, authorize the Community Resources Director to complete and submit on behalf of the Board the online application for this grant. And as I referenced earlier, this is a private location, so that's why the grant is not submitted for public review. But there is a handout that you've been provided and the public has provided that kind of goes over the general vision for this concept. And there also is a state revitalization program application, disclosure authorization, and certification that would be signed as part of this application process. We're familiar with this grant. We've done it before and have been successful in receiving these funds, most recently for purchase of 87 Main Street as part of our acquisition funding. Definitely can see the benefit of this location in terms of having transitional housing. And if going back to that initial presentation, one of the things that we mentioned was that people end up extending their stay because they aren't able to find adequate transitional housing. And they're just not in the situation after 6 months of, being able to afford an apartment. They're, in many cases, still trying to get out of that cycle that they've been in and getting away from their abuser and just starting to rebuild their lives. So transitional housing is very critical. The concept the state provided to us basically was like 2 years of assistance with this transitional housing and some financial mentoring, savings that would be going towards an escrow that they could use if they were interested in purchasing their first home, like a starter home, or towards their rent, down payment to their, apartment or house.
Are there other programs like this throughout the state already in existence, or?
Not really. This is why they came to us, because they want to see a model for that developed in Maryland. So it's exciting to be a part of a pilot. What I will say is we have some great natural partners here. We have C4 that already has a mentoring model, financial mentoring model built in. And they're not the only one. There are other agencies like Hope Initiative and Prince George's County and Southern Maryland Tri-County Community Action that also have a mentoring component built into their programs. And that savings is also a part of those programs. So there's some natural partners out there. And then we also have Calvert Safe Housing Network, which is a new nonprofit, and their whole goal is getting victims of domestic violence into stable housing. And so they would be committed as a nonprofit partner in this project.
Sounds like a good fit.
Yeah, it really does. And they like the idea of doing it in a place where, this 6 units is very meaningful for our community. And it's a small scale that they could look at doing maybe larger in other places, but they can work out the fine points in it here.
How many individuals can you house now?
So house at the Safe Harbor Shelter really depends on the size of the families. So I want to say 27.
27 families?
No,
People.
individuals. Yeah, it's about 27 people. And so the family sizes, so the idea with these is that they'd be modular. And they could fit a family, because that's another huge issue that we have is finding, there aren't apartments large enough for families.
Whether it's an
But that's all
individual or
they-
family.
Right, but that's all they can afford at the
Right.
moment. And if you've ever seen there's plenty of movies and books that have documented the struggle, but I think most recently the movie Made that was done did a phenomenal job. And I think that was a Netflix series, actually, a limited series. But it really shows the challenge in the system to be able to make enough money to pay for daycare, to pay for housing. All these things have to happen. And so being in a supportive place to build up that independence and that financial strength is very important.
Well, Jen, you keep doing what you're doing because, that person you helped, we've talked about a few times, it's really come full circle. And you know what I'm talking about. I mean, you talk about making a difference. I mean, what you did, completely changed her life, her kids' lives, and they're going on to some really cool things right now. They really are.
Yeah.
And so whatever magic you keep doing over there, I've had a chance to watch that from its worst point to now where they just seem like just a brand new person, like it never even happened. So,
This is gratifying work because the people that'll be part of a transitional housing, there's going to be work for them to do. They have to be motivated, they have to be committed, but when they are, as in, the case that you're referencing, you will see amazing outcomes. They want to give back, their kids excel.
the kids are just doing fantastic.
Yeah, and
Yep.
so, maybe they'll grow up to be social workers and help people that were in similar situations. So that's what we hope to see out of this project, is it really come full
And she
circle.
just glows when you see her. It's
Yeah.
really, so you were awesome.
Cool, that's good to hear, thank you.
Jennifer, this is a wonderful opportunity for the county and for our citizens. And you've talked about the grants and other resources within the community. What is or is there any financial obligation that the county is going to have to incur, or is this all grant-driven?
This will be grant-driven at this point. We're really just seeing what's possible on this
Okay.
piece of land. Once we figure out what's possible, that's where the state has said to us they want to partner with the federal government, and they're actually going to partner in getting grants for our community. So for them to say that, I thought that's pretty remarkable. And they're also looking at corporate sponsors. So when we talk about P3, like partnerships, this might be something where there's that kind of opportunity.
Thank you.
Sure.
So is increased demand relative to increased population?
So I will say that's what's unique, yes, but also with regards to this particular need, it's sought around the state. And it really depends on where you need to be and what resources are there, right? So for some people that are living in Calvert County, they're not going to want to be at a shelter here. This is where their abuser lives. And so they will seek support from a shelter in Montgomery County, and vice versa. But in other cases, this is where their families are that are there to help with the children. This is where their job is, maybe, so it's all, the circumstances are different for each of these cases, but obviously we do see increase in the demand because of population.
I just wonder if it was relative, if there was something else going on that. the
Not
demand
that we
increased.
know of.
No.
No.
An average stay? Is there an average stay, length of stay?
I think I can get you that figure, because I believe we have that from a grant. But I know that in many cases, they are exceeding the 60-day. And we're seeing that at all of our shelters now, that's become an issue, and looking at, and even the funding is changing, whereby the state used to separate, shelter funding and rental funding. Now they're doing a lot more supports, and this comes all the way from HUD for short-term rentals or transitional housing, because there isn't that middle. That's where the gap is. So the benefit of having transitional housing is that we will be able to get other folks that need that shelter support into shelter. Calvert Safe Housing Network also looks at, they work on getting them into, if they can get them into rentals, they'll do that. If they're in a situation where that's what they can handle or afford, or they'll get them into hoteling if there's no available shelter stays. But that's not always the most ideal situation. And the beauty of Safe Harbor is they provide case management. There is a connection to therapeutic services, so you are getting more wraparound in that situation.
So I guess that one of the advantages we have now is CMT, so every time a deputy basically goes to a domestic violence case, they have CMT there with them as well, so that referral is automatic now.
Yes.
So with that being said, are our cases up, down? Did it pretty much seem to be the same over the last few years, or?
I believe we were seeing an increase post-COVID, but that was also, we don't know how linked that was to COVID as well, right? Because people were kind of on lockdown. So I'd like to give it another year and see what that trend looks like.
And I would assume those people support each other because they all understand what the other's going through and creates a community.
I would say yes in some cases, but when people have gone through trauma, they're not always in a position to do that. So it depends. We know the statistic, it takes 7 times on average for somebody to leave an abuser.
7 times.
Yep.
And how long has Safe Harbor been here?
Let's see, I think the first site plan was 1991.
I was say mid to late 90s.
Yeah, and so, there was the subsequent site plan, which I shared, and that's 1996. So, and I actually recall when my sister was in high school, them having telethons, and they involved all the schools and raising money for it, which was really cool to see. And I know we've talked about, the transition from the health department and managing Safe Harbor to it moving to a nonprofit. And so we've been in discussions about that. And with the new nonprofit, Calvert Safe Housing Network, we can see that possibility. And the beauty of a nonprofit running this is the ability to be able to do that full wrap around. They're providing the services and they're doing the fundraising. They're doing the whole thing.
I'll tell you, when they came on board, it was a tool for deputies to be able to have an avenue to be able to, a lot of times people didn't have a place to go. Whereas now you were able to take them there. It worked out great. And it's been successful for years and years, and I look forward to seeing this expansion.
Thank you. So do I.
Did Linda Kelly get the ball rolling on this?
Gosh, I mean, of course, I worked at United Way, and we were one of their big supporters in the 2000s, and she was super active at that time, and that was the early 2000s. So I imagine she was involved in the 1996 site plan development. I didn't see her name there. They had been contracting with one of the county surveyors at the time, and I think Greg Bowen was here during that site plan approval. And it's interesting. It's one of those things. It's their vision included even more than just what the 6 transitional houses and a resource center. They really wanted to do this whole wraparound approach on site with multiple agencies. But we are opening the hub And so there's a lot that's possible at that resource hub as well, where we're doing the transfer station. So, we don't want to duplicate efforts.
Well, it's nice to see that it has grown and only gotten better.
Yes.
This is one of those projects where you take donations for supplies or needs.
I mean, I think it's definitely going to be like that. So, it's exciting that it's looking like it's going to be a very collaborative project. I think those tend to be the most successful and involving the community.
Businesses and nonprofits.
Yep.
It's good.
Okay.
Okay,
Very good.
Thank you.
thanks, Jen.
Thank you for all
Thank
you
you
do,
have done.
Jennifer.
Oh,
You're the
Mr.
best.
Mr. President, I can have a motion. I move that we authorize the Community Resource Director to complete and submit on behalf of the board the online application for the fiscal year 2026 Strategic Demolition Fund Grant for Transitional Housing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Very excited.
So the next item on the agenda is a work session, Office of County Administrator, Ethics Code update on House Bill 834. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Alicia Reeves, Constituent Services Specialist with the Office of the County Administrator. Joining me today is Mr. Timothy Cox. He is the Chair of the Calvert County Ethics Commission. He's joining us virtually today, so he'll be with you up on the screen in just a moment. And then in person today, I have Mr. Todd Pounce. He is the legal counsel to the Calvert County Ethics Commission.
Good morning.
Morning.
So Tim, whenever you can get up, we can go ahead and read that memo. I'll defer to you for that. If Tim has any issues, I'll just go ahead and read the memo.
You can read the memo while he's coming up.
Yep, I will go ahead and do that. So background, on April 25th, 2024, Governor Wes Moore signed House Bill 834 into law. The law mandates that the Calvert County Ethics Code to be updated to include a regulation which requires the Ethics Commission to publicly disclose recommendations to expel a commissioner. The law also mandates that the county adopt a regulation authorizing the county's governing body to remove county elected officials for local and state conflict of interest violations based on the Ethics Commission public recommendation. On April 1st, 2025, the Calvert County Ethics Commission presented the draft ordinance in a work session to the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners requested additional clarification on the scope of the ordinance and voted to direct the county administrator to assign staff to confer with the Ethics Commission for the grounds of taking action. Discussion. On April 17, 2025, the Ethics Commission held its monthly meeting and discussed the code update. The Ethics Commission clarified that any recommendation for removal of a county commissioner due to a conflict of interest must be based on existing ethics rules that already apply to county elected officials, specifically Section 41-13 of the Calvert County Ethics Code or Section 5-807A1 of Maryland state law, which currently points back to the Calvert County Ethics Code. The Commission voted to make two minor changes or revisions to better distinguish local and state ethics provisions. These track changes are attached to the memo. Fiscal impact, none. Conclusion and recommendation. The Calvert County Ethics Commission requests to provide a presentation and have a discussion with the Board of County Commissioners to provide additional clarification regarding the scope of the ordinance. Following a favorable discussion, the Ethics Commission requests that the Board of County Commissioners direct staff to hold a public hearing on July 15th, 2025 to adopt the updated ethics provisions. And if it pleases the board, we can go ahead and give this brief presentation. And Tim, are you joining us now?
I now have calm, so I apologize for that.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
And real quick, I do appreciate being able to attend virtually. I do understand it's much better to be there in person, but the convenience is appreciated. And with that, our first slide just has an overview of what House Bill 834 is to remind us what the legislature asked us to do with the governor signed into law. And by us, I mean, of course,
this Board of County Commissioners, which you need to change the current Calvert County Ethics Code to incorporate two requirements of the state law. One, which is if the Ethics Commission makes a recommendation to expel a commissioner because of a finding of a conflict of interest, the Ethics Commission has to make that recommendation public. The second requirement of the law is that the code needs to incorporate a process by which the Board of County Commissioners can thereby replace one of its members, should there be a determination to do so if there is a finding of a conflict of interest. If there's no questions, next slide. So again, the recommendation, if there is going to be one for removal, is going to be under Calvert County Code for conflicts of interest. Currently, the Ethics Code sets out conflicts of interest in 41-13. There's also provision in the Ethics Code if there's any law passed pursuant to state law, Section 5-807A1. Next slide. Here we have just a summary of 41-13. 41-13, again, it's titled conflicts of interest, but there are A through J subsections of provisions under Section 41-13. And if we want to summarize them by categories, you have the participation in matter prohibitions, the employment and financial limitations, and then a catch-all general other prohibitions, some of which arguably don't constitute conflict of interest. For example, there is a provision in 41-13 that deals with no retaliation. There is a provision that talks about apparent conflicts of interest and potential conflicts of interest, which specifically says are not violations of the code. So again, this just captures a summary of what the provisions could be by which there would be an allegation of a conflict of interest, that the Ethics Commission would evaluate the facts and circumstances and come up with a determination if any of the provisions are violated. If I may, I do recall from seeing at the last working session, there was some discussion or at least questions concerning the scope of what the conflicts of interest could be. I think there was some examples of speeding tickets and using public office for private gain. My comment here is that while there is a provision under 41-13 that does say no county employee or elected official is allowed to use their public position for private gain, whether or not that constitutes a conflict of interest allegation that would be substantiated by the Ethics Commission would be determined based off the facts of what that might be. But again, if that conclusion is, and then a recommendation is made, that's just a permissive, the requirement that the Ethics Commission has to do. But what the Board of County Commissioners does is entirely within its discretion. So if we go to the next slide. Again, that's what I'm trying to get to, is that if the Ethics Commission within its scope of authority makes a finding that there is a conflict of interest under 41-13 and the provisions that are provided thereunder, then we have to make that recommendation public if the recommendation is to expel the member. Now, just because we find a conflict of interest doesn't mean that we can make a recommendation to expel a member. But if we did make the recommendation to expel a member, we have to make that public. But then it's on to the Board of County Commissioners as to what to do with that recommendation. And there are already procedures and processes in place for the Board of County Commissioners to do business, to include a contested hearing. And that's been incorporated into the ordinance that we've proposed for today. So if we go to the next slide. This is what the draft looks like. Now, what the Ethics Commission did was, in proposing language to change the code, we did submit that to the State Ethics Commission, which did approve what our plan was. We then did work with Mr. Norris on shaping the format of the proposed language to incorporate into the specific provision of the Ethics Code. What we came up with and proposed last month, we came back and we did make a minor change there because as we read the code, you don't pass laws, the county commissioners don't pass laws under 41-13. Then so we just wanted to make it clear that it's either a violation of 41-13 or if there is a law passed pursuant to the Maryland state law. So those are the only changes that we made since the last presentation of our proposal.
And Todd, I don't know if you wanted to speak to the ordinance at all?
Is Mr. Cox finished, or I was going to wait for him to
Yeah,
finish?
Mr. Pounds, go ahead. That's all that I had to present.
Okay, Mr. President, members of the commissioners, good morning again. I'm Todd Pounds, and I'm the attorney for the Ethics Commission. One of the things that we wanted to do is answer questions, and I did review some of the questions that were raised at the last hearing that the commissioners had with regard to this language. And to let you know, too, that, again, we have discussed this with Mr. Norris to make sure that indeed it is compliant with what I thought was the best interest for the commission, what he thought was the best interest of the county, and to actually have the language going forward. So we want to make sure that indeed you fully understood, what the intent here was in essence mandated by the state. And first of all, I want to say this is an extremely narrow language, okay? This is an extremely narrow situation. I think there was discussion, as Mr. Cox indicated, what would happen if there was a speeding ticket or something like that. That is not going to apply, and I'll explain that to you in 1 second. This is a very narrow situation in which this could be tailored. So, if I may, if indeed going through the language, the Coward County Ethics Commission may make a recommendation. So, in essence, before anything else can done, it is no obligation of the Ethics Commission to do anything, because that is the discretion that they can review it to make sure that indeed something may or may not, in their opinion, creates any type of issue. Next is make a recommendation. They are not authorizing or saying that there is a violation or anything else. They are simply recommending that it be reviewed by you. Okay, so in essence, in doing that, again, the discretion upon the commission is only may, and they're only making a recommendation for ultimately you to make the decision whether further action needs to be done. At that point, you could easily say, nope, no further action, it ends there, okay? And then to go forward, and this also only applies to situations involving conflicts of interest. The code is very detailed and very precise as to what conflict of interest is and what applies. I mean, it's not a lot of discretion there because the code is very well written and very detailed as to what it says, and that is the only situation that this can apply to in that type of manner. So again, very narrowly tailored as to what happened. So then, under the second part, if indeed it authorizes the commissioners may remove a county commissioner from office following a hearing. So in essence, it would have to be a hearing by you before anything could be done. And not only a hearing, but conducted in accordance with your own contested case procedures on an ordinance that you've already passed. Okay, so in essence, this is the hearing that would have to be done on your motions on your ordinance that you drafted and that you would have complete control over. So when I said this was narrowly drafted and narrowly tailored to only handle a narrow situation, that is in essence, what it would be with regard to that.
So can I ask a question, please? So what is that process? Is that like a normal process we have for public hearings for other issues where we'd advertise?
It would certainly have to be advertised, but it would be open to the public. I mean, absolutely. But no, this would be more of a contested case procedures, which is set out in there. So you'd have to have somebody outlining it as far as presenting the facts and the evidence. Then you make the determination whether what evidence comes in. You'd make the determination what is reviewed. And then ultimately, you'd have to, in essence, be the judge and jury, okay, as to, what that would be. So this would be, and then with the assumption that anybody who would be subjected to this would, have an attorney, that would be authorization, they could do that. They could cross-examine any witnesses. So this would be if I could say the term loosely, a mini trial, okay, as to what it would be.
That's why I ask.
Of
So
course.
it's not exactly the same as what we normally would operate under.
Oh, no,
Public hearing.
no, this is going to be much more detailed. It is, and the contested case procedures under 5120 outlines exactly what it is, okay? And so that it is much, much more detailed than just a normal public hearing.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
And, excuse me, and to get the ball rolling, 3 commissioners would have to be in agreement that they feel there is an ethics violation, and there needs to be 3 votes to get this process underway.
To even get the process going? Yes. Okay, in essence, that would be the, if I can use the criminal term, the, indictment or the criminal prosecution, in essence, to even start it. You'd have to be approval.
But a citizen could file a complaint about a commissioner with you first.
You would probably have to go through to the Ethics Commission first if the citizen was going to do
Right.
that, okay? And then that would then be reviewed
Right.
by the Ethics Commission, who, again, we go back to the first part, may, if they found that there is
Right.
enough to go forward, and then all the Ethics Commission would do is make a recommendation.
Right, so to really start the process, a citizen or a commissioner could file a complaint with the Ethics Commission.
That would be the process.
You all would investigate, and then you would make a recommendation to the board for removal or any other action other than removal?
There would even be a step before that. The commission would make the process whether they thought that there was sufficient to, in essence, go through
Correct.
that process, okay? And then if there was enough that they thought was sufficient, then that would be, make a recommendation to you to, in essence, vote for the board to go forward. So there are many different layers on a narrowly tailored situation.
Just trying to clarify the process for people watching and for us ourselves. That's
Absolutely.
all I'm trying to ask questions for.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So as it turns out, that ended my part of the, going through the ordinance also. So, as I stated, I have spoken to Mr. Norris about it. I think he and I don't want to speak for him, but they made the necessary changes where both he and I were comfortable. So and like I said, the only reason this is being done really is because it's mandated under state law. So I'm here to answer any questions or anyone else
Good.
may have questions.
Thank you. Any
Before,
questions?
before we go into discussion, I do want to really underscore one more part, just based on our last work session regarding the speeding ticket scenario. I know Mr. Cox kind of touched on this already about in the ethics code, there is a specific part in 41-13. An apparent conflict of interest is not a violation of the ethics code, but should be avoided when possible. You should report potential or apparent conflicts of interest to the Ethics Commission. So if any commissioners or elected officials feel that maybe they've been caught in some sort of situation where they feel like maybe, oh, this could appear to be a conflict of interest, it's always recommended to report that to the Ethics Commission, just so, they're aware and it just avoids any
Right,
confusion.
and I think a commissioner had a concern about how far this went and didn't understand. That's why we'd asked you all to review it and present. We greatly appreciate the time you took and
Thanks for having us.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So
Thank
if
you.
I-
Thank you.
If I may add something, I would like to thank the commission for, looking at this a second time and putting their eyes on it, our staff. And also, I want to thank Myra Gowan for, I think she went to Annapolis for this bill. So thank you very much for what you did.
A motion?
Yes, sir.
I move that we authorize advertising and public hearing for July 15th, 2025 to accept public comments on the proposed changes to the Calvert County Ethics Code.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So, Tim, we do want to thank you and the commission for your work. I know there for a while we struggled. We didn't have a quorum, some vacancies we had to take care of. And, but it's not a fun job, but it's a job that needs to be done. So I want to thank you, Tim, and the rest of the commission members for all their work and the hard work, and Mr. Attorney, you too. We greatly appreciate.
Appreciate the word, but I will speak on behalf of the Ethics Commission, say, you know what, sometimes it is fun, but it is important. But
Okay,
thanks.
well, good. But, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
President, Commissioners, good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, commissioners.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
All right, I think that brings us to public comment.
Thank you, sir. To keep our meetings orderly, we follow rules established in 1989 and updated since. A copy is here to my right. You've been invited to address the Board of County Commissioners on topics related to county government. When speaking, please act and speak respectfully. Avoid being rude, using bad language, or disrupting the meeting. Tell us your name before you start. You get 2 minutes if you're speaking for yourself, 5 minutes if you are the chosen speaker for a group. No one is joining us virtually, so we can skip that part. And then to follow up with the Ethics Commission, if you're seeking to influence government decisions, you are a lobbyist and you need to register with the Ethics Commission ahead of time. Please identify yourself and whether speaking as an individual or the designated representative.
Yeah, so my name's Paul Quaid. I'm speaking on behalf of PFLAG Southern Maryland. If anyone's with PFLAG, feel free to stand up while I speak. So I want to first say thank you to the Calvert County government and Commissioner President Hance for acknowledging Pride Month. Thank you to him and the administrator's office for meeting with us yesterday to talk about some concerns that we had as an organization. And I want to ensure our membership that we're doing our best to make sure that everyone is heard. PFLAG Southern Maryland is a nonprofit. We work to create a caring, just, and affirming community for LGBTQ families through support, education, and advocacy. So I mostly want to say thank you to all the different allies we have in the community. Sometimes people can feel like there's not a lot of allies just because sometimes the hate can be the loudest. But I want you to know that there are a lot of allies. First, our library system in Calvert County is amazing. They are so dedicated to LGBTQ identities, not only in their book selection, but also their programming. They had a great event last year, and they're having it again on the 23rd to talk about some local LGBTQ history right here in Calvert County. They also provide a space for us to have our support groups. So thank you for that. Next, our local school system employees, specifically those in the Department of Student Services, and our amazing mental health coordinator, Tiffany. She does an amazing job at our wellness fairs. She always invites us to make sure that families in Calvert County know that there is an organization that can support them. And we also want to make sure we say thank you to all those teachers that create safe spaces now more than ever. And especially those that act as advisors for student groups, such as the GSA groups, Gender Sexuality Alliance, or Gay Straight Alliance groups. We also have great health systems in Calvert County. We're always invited by the health department to attend their recovery festival. We spoke a lot about mental health earlier and reasons that people might have for turning to suicide, drug use, whatever that might be, especially youth. Just know that familial trauma and unacceptance is one of those main issues, especially as a suicide survivor myself. I think that's important to acknowledge. Calvert Health always invites us to come have a table at their at the hospital, just to make people aware that we do have an organization in the county that's there for them also, patients and also employees. I also want to say thank you to the Park and Rec Department. We have several events at facilities throughout the county, specifically our Holidays Party, which we do at the Southern Community Center every year. I want to say thank you to all the local businesses, organizations, and faith communities that make Calvert County a safe and affirming place for LGBTQ people to work, gather, and pray. And I also want to say thank you to all the other LGBTQ organizations, including Pride SOMD, which was started right here in Calvert County, and also the Calvert Rainbow Alliance. And lastly, I want to say, and most importantly, happy Pride to all the LGBTQ citizens of Calvert County and all of our allies. Know that that you have family here and you are loved. Check out pflagsomd.org for information on our support groups, our events, and local resources. Commissioners, we look forward to seeing you at an event soon and possibly a proclamation next year. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I have some things over here that I'm going to give to the administrator to hand out to everybody. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Lily Crunkleton. I am speaking as an individual right now. I just really want to start by saying thank you so much, Paul. Paul is a huge inspiration to me in so many different ways. I was born right here in Prince Frederick at Calvert Memorial, and I've lived and worked here my whole life. I identify as a queer woman, and my pronouns are she, her. I want to say that my identity has been profoundly influenced by Southern Maryland and Calvert County specifically. I really want to sort of say this in celebration of Pride Month, is to praise the progress that this county has seen when it comes to accepting queer people. But I do want to acknowledge the past violence that has happened to these people who lived in the way that I live now. Right now, I am living proudly with this identity, even though I do face transphobia every day. I have this queer joy that I feel when I think about Calvert County and this idea that queer people have always been here and we will always be here. I just want to sort of conclude here by saying thanks and T-Girl swag forever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Good morning. My name's Danielle. I'm a veteran in Huntingtown, mom of two. I'm actually here because I am deeply concerned by the Board of Education's decision to erase anti-racism language from our school district's code of conduct, website, and policies without any transparency or public input. I watched the building of that policy happen step by step, and it was one of the few times that I really felt proud to be a member of the community here, felt like we were moving forward progress-wise. And what happened last week is the exact opposite. It's going in the wrong way. It was really horrifying to watch it unfold, but I really wanted to come here because last year I watched all of you endorse them for their campaigns, and I just wanted to let you know that pretending that the LGBT community doesn't exist here doesn't help anyone. And enabling racism and sowing hate amongst your constituents also doesn't help anyone here either. If the county doesn't pivot, two things are gonna happen. One, either there's going to be legal and media coverage that is going to ruin the reputations of everyone involved, or it is literally just going to be a slow collapse of this economy. Because when the schools fail, everything fails. Housing, businesses, and you won't be ruling over the Southern Maryland charm that you think you are. You'll just be ruling over empty storefronts and lost futures. Please, tell them to change course now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. 3 seconds.
Hello, Commissioners. I am Stacy Taman, and I am speaking today as an individual. First, Commissioner Hart, I do want to say that all school staff are trained in recognizing mental health concerns and finding appropriate resources. So it is us who are kicking the tires. And I can assure you that as someone who is closely connected to our school system, that it is all staff, not just teachers. We're talking administrators, social workers, safety advocates, the cafeteria staff, pupil personnel workers. We have an entire web of staff who are trying to take care of our students. But if some of those policies that have been proposed by our Board of Education pass, our mental health crisis is going to escalate. You cannot cut off the connection between students and the staff. But I also want to acknowledge, Commissioner Hans, your acknowledgement of Pride Month. It is appreciated, and any step forward is a step forward. I'm not a big fan of labels, but I recognize that some labels are important to understand each other's journeys. And we do not become healthy, contributory citizens by what we are given, but by the struggles we endure. As a community, as we evolve in our acceptance and inclusion of people who are different than straight white people, we become a better community. No one should have to endure any form of disrespect, bullying, or discrimination because of who they are. And absolutely no one should be punched, kicked, beaten, spit on, tortured, or murdered because of who they love. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brandon Russell, and I am speaking on behalf of Pride Southern Maryland. This year is our 8th annual Pride event, which started as a small gathering of 50 folks on the Solomons Boardwalk that was organized by some Calvert County youth. And from that, it grew into a larger event that was held at the Calvert Marine Museum, Corbin Pavilion for a few years, and now we've grown again. And so we, a couple years ago, moved over to St. Mary's County, and we have the event in Lexington Manor Passive Park, the old Flat Tops, if you're familiar, that's the area. This year's theme is Existence is Resistance. And we felt that the theme was appropriate given all of the things that are happening to the LGBTQ plus community. We are under attack by the government, by our neighbors, by our community. So it's not really a great time to experience all of these negative opinions and things that are happening, but we chose Existence is Resistance as our theme because we believe that just existing and being yourself is a good form of resistance and showing up and showing other community members that we all have a connection to find among each other in some way. I will leave some of these flyers with the county administrator, and we certainly invite you to attend our event. It is on October 12th this year, which is a Sunday from 11 to 4. If you're interested in finding out more, there's a QR code on the back you can scan, or you can go to our website, which is pridesomd.com, and we will have information there as it becomes available closer to the event date. I also want to take the time to share with you some information that I hope you find useful, and it is about the Maryland Commission on LGBTQIA+ Affairs, which is a state commission that falls within the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives, and is the only state commission created by and with a mandate from legislation that was passed, I believe, in 2021. The commission advocates on behalf of LGBTQ+ Marylanders at the state level through issuing policy priorities, recommendations, best practices, meeting with stakeholders in state government and from local communities. The commission completed a post-election survey after the 2024 election and is currently developing a broader community survey for LGBTQ Marylanders, which hopefully will be out later this year. But the results from the post-election survey that was completed at the end of 2024, just some brief results that I'll share with you, showed that 80% of respondents have increased concerns over impact on LGBTQ rights, specifically trans rights. 78% of respondents are concerned about a rise of hate bias related incidents. 60% of respondents feel less safe in their communities. There is also a report that the State Commission has on its website titled A Decade of Data, which provides insights on experiences from LGBTQ Marylanders and was completed in cooperation with the University of Maryland. That data in that report shows that Calvert is number 11 out of 24 state jurisdictions for the number of bullying incidents per 1,000 students in the school system, and that Southern Maryland in general is the second highest region for bullying or sexual harassment related to LGBTQ+ identities, second behind the Eastern Shore region. The website for the commission is goci.maryland.gov/LGBTQ, and it has more about the commission, who serves as commissioners. The commission meetings are public, so we invite anybody listening or who may watch this back later, or any of you, to please reach out and attend the meetings. I serve on the commission as the representative from the Southern Maryland region, so I'm certainly happy to connect with you and start a conversation with the commission. If you're interested in that, please reach out. And we look forward to seeing you at our Pride event later this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
My name's Stephanie Jones. I'm a resident of Calvert County. I've been here since 1989, and I'm a proud LGBTQ member. I listened to the public health discussion this morning. One thing that caught my attention was the concern about the children and what's going on with them. And you just heard the discussion about bullying and things like that. They've done surveys, and what they have found in the past of 13 to 17-year-olds is that 54% report self-injury. They don't have an outlet for what's internally happening to them. So what do? They go home, they harm themselves, some even among one of the highest rates of suicide, causes suicide among youth. The Board of Education, where I spoke about a month and a half ago, did not listen. They took down any indication of pride, LGBTQ, safe spaces, even to the point where little rainbows were removed. What's that got to do with you? You all control 50% of their budget. And in the process of budgeting them, you can direct them that this should be reversed. And start putting back the safe space stickers. So kids, particularly the 13, 17-year-olds, know that there is a teacher there that's willing to listen to them. Someplace to their talk to. It's amazing what happens when some of the kids get an opportunity to talk. In some cases, I've had kids literally reduce themselves to tears as they tried to tell me their stories. So that is my key point for you all, that there needs to be a way for these kids to know where they can go to talk. I'm a member of St. Luke's Episcopal Church in St. Paul's, and we have safe space stickers there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, Nancy Krause. I identify as she, her. I'm not with the group. I'm going to be talking passionately because that's how I communicate my frustration and my feelings. So apologies. I wasn't planning on talking today at all. I'm here to support LGBTQ people and to encourage everyone to show some kindness. If we all just chose to be kind to each other, we would have a much better community. I chose to retire down here. I lived in Montgomery County for much of my career. I'm a retired nurse. I feel very welcomed here. I am grateful as a mom, a grandma, and a recent great-grandma that none of my children are involved in this school district. It is an embarrassment. I've only recently become active with the Board of Education, and I do not mean disrespect, but it is a kangaroo court. I want to acknowledge that all 5 of you have sat through all the public discussion here. The Board of Education tends to have to go to the bathroom when the public starts speaking, or they start chomping on a protein bar or something. It is the most disrespected event in my 69 years that I have ever been to. Just be kind. We don't have to agree. We don't have to get politics into it, but be kind to each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still no one online, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you all. That brings us to commissioner reports. Commissioner Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Me and President Hance attended the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday. Me and Commissioner Ireland, boy, get my days Thursday. Wednesday was the ribbon cutting for the Hermitage. Saying that right?
Rehabilitation Center.
Boy, it's just been a long month, I think. And you heard beginning, this is County Administrator Willis's last meeting with us here. When I first started, you were in Public Works with Raj Sharma, and who was the director at the time, and then over to the director at Planning and Zoning and here. And you don't have enough time in the day for all the stories, but my very first encounter with Mark, when you're new, you don't even know where the bathroom is. I mean, you know, it's so overwhelming. You know, next thing you know, they're like, okay, you got the job, and then people come up to you and they want you to do this, want you to do that, and you don't really know how to do it. And so I would pick up the phone and call a department, and a couple times I was told, well, if you get 3 votes, I'll go do it. I was like, wow, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, you know? And so then one day I was at my work, and this gentleman come in and he says, we got a tree that's going to fall on our he was at Southern Pines, and you need to do something about it. I'm like, okay. So I pick up the phone and I called down Public Works, and Mark just happened to answer the phone. And I don't remember what time it was. It's probably about 10:30, 11 in the morning. And so I told him about it. I kind of described, where it was and what have you. And so anything none of it. After that, he said, okay, I'll take care of it. So I hadn't had a lot of success of getting anything done. And so I called back that afternoon, and Mark answered the phone again. And I said, hey, Mark, any news on that tree or whatever? And he's like, and if you know anything about it, everything's like, sir. And I'm like, he's like, yes, sir. And I'm like, well, he goes, well, it's done. I'm like, what, somebody checked it out? He goes, no, it's down, it's removed, it's gone. I was like, God, that was kind of easy. It sounds so silly of a story, but if you ever tried to take on something that was just so overwhelming to you at first, and you're finding out that, hey, I'm just not that good at this because I don't know how to get anything done. I mean, everybody I call, I can't get anything done. And then that was like my first little piece of success. And the guy later came and said, wow, thank you. And, it was my beginning of learning that this job is much more than just understanding the print in front of you. It's how do things work and how to work with people and who to ask and to try to get things done. And I tell that story, Mark, and you've heard me tell that story many times. That was my first, maybe I can do this job, which you didn't think anything really of. It was just a routine thing. Okay, this tree's going to fall on this place. But that was my first confidence of okay, because I was like, well, man, maybe I'm just doing this wrong. Every little thing I thought, I just, so it's just a long line of thank yous. I've said, Mark, and there's enough time in the day for all the stories. I have this Monday call to Mark almost religiously for 6 years, 7 years.
And how long are those phone calls typically?
Oh, they're long.
Have you got a minute? He always starts out
Let
with,
me
have you
tell
got
you,
a minute? An hour later, you're still on the phone.
If you guys are trapped in an elevator with me and Mark, you're not going to make it. Okay, because we're going to suck all the oxygen out of there. I mean, it's yeah. And
I'm going to break out, sir.
What's
I'll
that?
I'll break out of the elevator.
I believe that. I mean, I have just countless stories of. There was a grant one time that nobody could figure out. And if there's anything you know about Mark, the challenge to him is, I'm going to figure this out. And it was a grant with the federal government, state, and local. So if you think government can be slow, try putting all three of them together. And that is just, and he actually researched this whole thing, called them all, had them all come down and help those people. And they still remember that to this day. They still talk about it. You know, the one guy down there, but Mark, I just can't say thank you enough for all you've helped me. I don't know. I thought about it all week. What's the proper thing to say? I mean, I think you know how much I appreciate everything you've done. And some of the beatings, some of them we took together, some of them I left you on an island just to take the beating, I'm like, let me get Mark on the phone for you. But just a wholeheartedly thank you, Mark.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
See you again with the sir. It's
Mr. Brasso?
On the 10th of June, 4 of us commissioners toured Anne Marie Gardens, and if you've not been there, go. It's a gem within Calvert County along with the Marine Museum. We had a ribbon cutting at the Cosin Center, and boy, that is going to be fabulous for people who are inclined to the arts. It's a good place to find your voice if you are an artist. There's a variety of, I don't know, maybe disciplines there. I'm not sure. And also a thank you to Katie Brinkley. She's done a great job with advancing arts within our community. On the 12th, Commissioner Ireland and I were at the Ladies of Charity Food Pantry. They serve 500 families a month. They rebuilt in 7 months. They are absolutely phenomenal. And our health department has been there before, but because there's a bigger footprint, a larger footprint. They're going to be able to get their health van in there. They'll be offering mammograms to women. I mean, this serves our community the way we should serve our community. And if you don't know it, something was told to me once, we're happiest when we're doing for others, and that's very true when you get out of yourself and you help others within your community. This afternoon, a young lady, Allie, is having her grand opening for Alley Cat down in Solomon's, right before you get into Solomon. She's a dynamic young woman. Ever since I've been a commissioner, I've been associated with her, and I'm just so happy for her success. And Private Willis.
Yes, ma'am.
Private Willis and I did not get off to a good start. It may have included a tonsillectomy without anesthesia. But Private Willis and I have grown. And I have to tell you, of anybody in this building, he has been the most help to me. And I'm talking about a lot of dynamic employees that we have in this building. I did not want to enter this job and not be able to hit the ground running. And Mark spent months with me and hours with me, making sure I knew what I was getting into. Of course, you have to live it to really know what you're getting into. But Mark, I do appreciate the support you've always given me. You give me support, you give all of us support, and that gives our community support. Thank you so much. Don't be a stranger. We'll hunt you down. We're going to have to do karaoke or something, but we'll keep up with you. Thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you, ma'am. My pleasure.
Mr. Cox.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to reiterate, if you didn't hear, the passing of Jack Brown. Please keep him in your prayers, the families of the Brown and all the other families impacted with him. I also went to Anne Marie Gardens the other day, and they invited me back for Bad Art Night. So I don't know what that was all about.
They've seen you draw, huh? I didn't know that. Okay.
I got invited back, Mike.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's an event coming back too.
It's in
Anne Marie.
August.
Yes, in
And
August.
I was invited as well. I
Yes,
think,
I don't know what
think
they're
they
telling us.
detected our DNA.
Yeah.
I would have failed art, but I cheated off of Doug Kirk in 5th grade.
Mr. Willis, your last meeting.
Yes, sir, it is.
So I guess the early morning Tuesdays don't apply anymore, or if you want to come on in, just give me a call and I will definitely let you in early on Tuesday mornings.
That's against the rules.
So for those that don't know, Commissioner Cox gets here early on Tuesday. Linda and I meet him at 6 o'clock in the morning here. And I will return because I can stand out on the sidewalk free of will and we can have a cup of coffee.
So I just want to say thank you for all you've done. Not only, people don't know you 20 plus years as a Marine, 20 plus years serving the citizens of Calvert County. And then plus you got to deal with all of us. So thank you for what you do, what you've done. Good luck in your new endeavors, whatever it might be. I'm sure it's going to be many, but good luck in them, and thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Arnold.
And we weren't even your guinea pigs. You've had to do this before.
I did, sir.
So I can remember you at Fleet, Highway, Public Works, Planning and Zoning, ERC spokesperson, and then coming into this as the administrator. So you've been a busy man. Thank you for everything you've done for our county, Mark. It's been challenging. I've learned a lot from you. I think everybody here has, but we appreciate it very much. Going back to Anne Marie Gardens, they had a recycling arts and crafts there that I guess had something to do with the Bad Arts Night. Isn't that when they have wine?
No, it's drinking. Bad Arts is all about drinking.
Well, they had the largest container of wine corks I've ever seen, so it's probably a heck of an event is what I'm trying to get at.
Were they just freshly put in there?
I don't know. But anyhow, it was neat. They had a whole wall of a bay scenery. It had an eagle, it had osprey, it had a heron, and the water, the beach, and everything was out of recycled materials. But, for younger age group, but it is neat. I guess it would teach kids how to recycle. The 11th, as Mike said, we went to Dow Road and the rehabilitation center there and had a ribbon cutting, and very successful business so far. And actually, they're looking to expand already. Looking for opportunities there. On the 12th, as Commissioner Grasso said, Ladies of Charity ribbon cutting. You didn't mention the cheerleaders.
Oh, they're wonderful.
They-
You take it away.
No, so the Ladies of Charity had their tutus on their palms, and they set up cheers to celebrate the opening of their new facility. It's very, very, very nice. Juneteenth celebration at Jefferson Patterson Park. There was a lot of familiar faces there. Another great community event. Father's Day was good. 4th of July is coming. I hope everybody has a great 4th of July, and prayers for the Middle East. That's all I have.
Thank you. So first off, Stacy's still here. I want to apologize to Stacy because we all, when we talk about the school system, we all say teachers. And we know that it's a team that takes care of our kids in those schools. It's not just the teachers. But I'm going to apologize for all of us. We all just say teachers.
It's true, right?
And we know.
Like I
it's
say
not
guys all the
just
time, like,
teachers.
hey guys,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
don't, I just kind of,
So
yes.
Stacy said the appropriate word that they would accept would be educators.
Aha.
That's all of us.
Okay. The team. So I want to say, I'm sorry, because I said teacher.
Thank you.
And
yes, yes.
it's a team
It's
effort.
our upbringing, Stacy. You got to forgive us all on that one.
We're old. We didn't have you when we went to school. We had teachers and the principal who paddled you. So that's what we had.
That's about right.
Teacher paddled you, and then she sent you to the principal, and the principal paddled you. But I think we turned out okay.
You should go to Catholic school.
But the group has left. But I do want to thank Mr. Quaid for taking our call and meeting with us yesterday. Unfortunately, it was a phone call meeting, and I had a very bad connection. But, we did have a little issue a couple of years ago, and we didn't understand what was going on, and I don't think they understood what was going on. But I think we cleared that up yesterday. And, Calvert County is a welcoming place. And nobody should be beaten physically or verbally because of what they believe. That's what's wrong with this country now. There's too much dissension over different opinions. And as was said today, it takes all of us to make this a great place. And I think Calvert County is a very, very special place because on Saturday, we went to Juneteenth, which celebrates the end of slavery. And Commissioner Hart, in his comments, talked about Calvert County. And maybe it's because I'm old and I don't remember, but I was in the first segregated class in Calvert County when they put us all together. And I don't remember any fights. There were no riots because we all grew up together. It wasn't a big deal. But I remember segregated stores, bars, Gateway restaurant everybody goes to. When I grew up, that was a bar, and it was segregated. The bar ran the whole length of the building, and there was a wall, and the blacks on one side and the whites on the other, and I never quite understood what was going on. Because when we got outside of that building, we were all the same.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you said too,
Yeah.
because in St. Mary's, I used to serve a bar, and the guy would always have me come in the one side that was the white side, and I went on the other side, and he's like, no, you go over here. And that was only like maybe 25 years ago, and I mean, it was just like, no, dude, get your order over here. And I was just like, yeah, it's weird, because...
Yeah. 1966, the sixth grade in Calvert County was integrated. That was me.
It
Sixth
wasn't
grade, you said?
mean-spirited,
Sixth
but he was
grade.
like,
That's
he
when
was
they
telling me I was in
put
the
us
wrong
all
place.
together, and everything was fine. And that's all we knew. We grew up as tobacco farmers. We hired the road I lived on. There were more black people on that road than there were white people. We all got along. And when back in those days, my grandmother fed the help, and we all ate together. We all ate the same food. We all got. I didn't get paid, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you were white or black. You got paid the same thing for a day's work. $1 an hour. That's what I remember. $1 an hour to cut tobacco. And those were the days. Calvert County is a great place, and it's unfortunate that we have this division going on, and it's still a good place, but we're not perfect. This country isn't perfect. Juneteenth celebrates the end of a very dark period in this country. So, we're not perfect, and we still have work to do. I just can't get over that our school's not safe. You have to designate safe zones. That's, to me, I just don't get it. And look, if I'm being honest, I'll get a bunch of hate mail, but all the talk about equity, I can't believe our kids aren't getting treated equal. Today, in Calvert County, we have to have a policy that dictates kids get treated equal. I just can't wrap my hands around that. Sorry. Because at the end of the day, we're all the same.
Well, it goes back to when we were talking, like, we all went to school together and we all grew up together, so it's just the guy on your team or the person on your bus or whatever. I mean, I was very lucky. Like I said the other day, I was very lucky to grow up in an atmosphere where, I don't know. This just was your friends and family. And
So my wife grew up in PG, Prince George's County, right on the district line. And her father, when the riots broke out, her father said, "We got to go." And they came to Calvert County because we didn't have that issue here. This close, but we didn't have that issue. And I could tell a story about my mother-in-law, but my wife wouldn't like it, so I won't do that. But we all just need to get along, as was said. We'd be way better off. We need less police. We need less of everything if we would all just get along and get some tolerance. So we're going to try to do better. And you've already heard where I've been all week.
Yeah.
Juneteenth had a very good turnout, at least when I was there in the afternoon. It was a little light in the beginning, but that's Thursday, so courthouse will be closed. A lot of offices will be closed, so if you don't know what Juneteenth is about, you should do some homework, because you should know what it's about. It's a very important time. So with that, I will conclude my remarks. I just want to say again, I want to send our condolences out to Joe Allman's family and Jack Brown's family. And Mr. Willis, I've only been here 6 years and had to deal with you. I think that's enough. Just being honest.
I actually appreciate that comment, sir.
But, most of you have heard, Mark started out down in Fleet, I think is where you started.
Yes, sir.
The bottom, work your way up. So just shows your fortitude and tolerance. And we greatly appreciate all you've done for Calvert County, the citizens and county government, the improvements that you've made. And we'll miss you for a minute because we got Linda. So,
That's the way it's supposed to be, sir.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
It's good planning.
So you're just a number, you'll be replaced tomorrow, right? Isn't that what you always hear?
That's the way it's meant to be.
But we truly hope you enjoy your retirement. I know you have
he's going to.
plans. And come back anytime. I'm not going to let you in because that's against the rules. but Commissioner Cox will. But anyway, have a great retirement. I
Thank
know
you.
we'll see you around. You're not going anywhere.
Staying right here with my son, sir.
So, thank you. With that,
I move to recess to executive session pursuant to general provisions, Article Section 3-305B1I, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this board has jurisdiction.
I have a motion second to go into exec session. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.